Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic, let's learn. People who have had ghost or demonic encounters. What's your story? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Senior year in college, I was working late at night on an editing project for the campus TV station, which was located in the basement of the oldest building on campus. It was generally agreed that there was a ghost or presence in the building because things would move or disappear for weeks, only to reappear in a locked cabinet only accessible by moving a couch, etc. You get the idea. Anyway, back to the story. It was around 2 a.m. when I got up to go to the bathroom, did my business, washed my hands, and went to wipe them on my pants as I walked toward the door when all of a sudden I hear the unmistakable ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk sound of manual paper towel dispenser behind me. I look back and there's freshly released paper towels hanging there waiting for me. Not to be rude, I grabbed the paper towels, dried my hands, said thank you to the room, and got the hell out. For once, I'm early to this kind of question. I went to uni in South Africa, and I lived in a flat apartment that was next to a hotel, the Radisson, actually. My light would every now and again switch itself on and off, which I figured was an electrical failure. But the creepiest would be if I left the room for a few minutes and came back to find the light on or off. Like, even the switch would be pushed down. I used to sleep with my curtains open. One day I woke up to go to the bathroom. It was very late, like 3 a.m. My room was across the restaurant. I saw a man walking across the restaurant in a tux, and I was like, odd. There weren't usually any people up there at night. I come back from the bathroom, and I see him walk past again, in the same direction. At this point, I feel a little uneasy. I scooch closer to the window. Please note I'm in the dark while the restaurant lights are on, so I can see this person, but they shouldn't be able to see me. The person again passes by, headed in the same direction, and now I'm really creeped out because I don't see them when they come back. It's as if there are many people who looked exactly the same who are passing by the same spot. Anyway, the third time around he stops, turns, and cups his hand around his eyes while looking through the window, as if he's looking right at me. I ducked, crawled out of the room, and spent the night in the living room, lol. I won't lie and say I'm a skeptic, but I'm definitely like an ignorer. Like, I never spoke about this while I lived in that place because that would make it real. But after I left, I was like, that place might have been haunted, if hauntings are a thing. I've had a good amount of paranormal instances, but the one that affected me the most was that I would always see this man everywhere when I was growing up, and I mean like the grocery store, at school, in my house, etc. I even saw him when my family and I moved overseas. He is always dressed in the same clothes and would never get too close, and he was never there for too long either. It was never creepy, it was just like he was checking in, and as I got older I saw him less and less. By the time I was 16, I hadn't seen him for a while, and during this time my father reconnected with his biological father's side of the family, so my grandpa's family. When my dad was 2, his mom left his father because he was mildly abusive and suffered from a lot of war, PTSD, addiction, etc. And since my grandmother moved away, she lost all contact with her former in-laws, which is why my dad never really knew them. My dad met his father when he was 18, after my grandfather had sobered up and was actually an AA sponsor, and ended up devoting the rest of his life to helping other veterans. Unfortunately, my father was not over what happened with his mother or how he treated his mother, and just wasn't ready to make a relationship with him. Additionally, in his eyes, he already had a dad, which was his stepdad and the man who raised him. My grandfather would die a year later from organ failure. Jumping back to when I was 16, my father contacted my woman, who claimed to be my cousin. She explained that her mother was my dad's aunt, and she'd been looking for him and his siblings for years. They all talked for months on the phone, and during the summer before my junior year in high school, my dad and I took a trip to visit his whole extended family. During this time, we could visit my grandfather's grave, get to know what he was like post-recovery, and reconnect with the family my father didn't know was looking for him. Their instant connection was so beautiful, and since that year, we have all gone on holidays together, spent Thanksgiving and Christmas together, and see each other as much as possible. But that isn't really the point of the story. The point is that when we were visiting his family, we started going through photo albums, and before this time I had never seen what my grandfather looked like. So you can imagine my surprise when the man I saw for my entire life was the man I now call Grandpa. Well, this actually turned out to be quite a pleasant story, with the not good stuff in the beginning, but it ended pretty well, so thank you for sharing. And a nice twist. I lived alone in a spooky apartment years ago. Sometimes, when I was drifting off to sleep, there'd be an almighty bang on my bedroom door that would wake me. It happened regularly. Then one day, I was doing my hair in front of my vanity. A ring that was sitting on the table launched itself an inch into the air. I tried every way possible to explain how it jumped by itself, but I had to put it down to supernatural. Last one I had was when I was a teenager at my old apartment in my old bathroom. I heard an evil old witch-type laugh coming from the bathroom sink drain. That basement always gave me the creeps, and one of my mother's friends said she saw a shadow in the basement one time when we were not home, when she stopped over. I actually had two experiences. The first one was when I was in high school. I was doing my schoolwork in my room with the door open. I was home alone. I had my cats next to me sleeping on the floor. I heard a noise and looked at the doorway and nothing. Heard it again and got up to walk toward the door. As soon as I took a step, a huge black form ran across the doorway. My cats ran after it and I just closed the door behind me. I stood there against the door for what felt like hours. After a while, I got the courage and opened the door to find my cats standing looking at the door meowing. Second was the first time I got sleep paralysis. I woke up not being able to move. I looked around my room. After a bit, I found this dark figure behind my door. As soon as I laid my eyes on it, two red eyes showed up and it started walking toward me. I tried to scream or move and no avail. I closed my eyes for a bit and reopened them to see that the figure was literally standing next to me just looking down. I closed my eyes again and jolted out of bed. My ex haunts me regularly in broad daylight. I'll spot him walking across my workplace floor at least 5 times per month, and then he'll either touch me or say my name. Once he gave me a warning about a bad situation with a different ex by grabbing my shoulder. It felt just like a live person did it, and I spun around to find nobody there. For some reason, he likes my workplace the most. My sister also haunts me, much to her delight. Nothing like having a conversation with somebody and hearing her say my name very loudly, next to my ear, in that annoyed way only she could pull off. She doesn't seem to have a favorite place to be when she bugs me. Well, I suppose, like family, you don't get to choose the people that haunt you. But if you could choose somebody to haunt you, who would it be? This is something I usually just say to my close family and friends. To get you in some context, I live in the capital of my state, but used to have a great-grandfather in a little town around 3 hours away from my home. He died a couple of weeks before turning 101 years old, but that last bit is irrelevant, just a fun fact. The point is that my family used to visit him at least once per month, my grandparents, uncle, and some aunts, along with most of my cousins and parents. 4 to 8 cars full of people, but we never stay there to sleep. At least that's what my family says. And it's almost impossible to me to have an afternoon nap. Insomnia is common for me. This is important later in the story. I believe I was haunted by something. Now, I know called guardians, entities sent to a person to be stalked by it. I have a vivid memory of my family staying over to sleep on my great-grandpa's house. They gave us some hammocks and some blankets, yes, Mexican, and yes, it gets cold, during the early morning before the sunrise. I tend to wake up around 2 to 3 a.m. since I was 7 to 9 to have something to eat. 2 or 3 cookies, and we were in the living room near my hammocks and was a small table with cookies that my mom prepared beforehand, knowing I would get hungry and didn't want to bother me or others in their sleep. In front of the table was the door that, while it usually remained open, because it was a small, safe town and all the neighbors left their doors wide open during the night, but since we were there, they decided to close and lock it to make us feel comfortable. Next to it was a big window with iron bars. The window was basically a wall. It extended almost from the floor to the roof and column to column. I took a couple of cookies and ate them without looking up. I felt a chill on my body. something telling me by instinct that something bad was about to happen. The goosebumps didn't take long to invade all my body, and that's when I heard it. Tick, tick, tick. There was someone or something tapping the iron bars of the window trying to get my attention. I looked up and saw a pale head with black veins with no hairs. The place where the eyes were supposed to be were empty, just pure infinite darkness, and it was smiling. It wasn't filled with endless razor-sharp teeth or unnaturally bended fangs. It was just a smile, the type of smile that was unnaturally big, taken 3/4 of its face and no tongue. Pure darkness beyond the row of teeth. I could see its body, just a long neck, and the long pale hands that ended with black tips and nails pointing at the door. I felt a compulsion to open the door, and got nearer and nearer step by step, felt my mind trapped, screaming, but no sound from my mouth. While my body moved despite my own willingness, I don't know what happened, but something snapped inside me. And somehow, while my little hand was on the lock, I was able to regain my senses. I remember crying in silence and managing to get back to my hammock. The thing eventually left the window, not without reminding me it was still there with the endless taps on the iron bars. I don't remember how, when, or if I slept the remainder of the night, but the next memory is my family receiving the news that the neighbor died due to a heart attack in the middle of the night. He was found next to his door. There's no way for me to confirm this since, like I said, while it was a vivid memory for me, as clear as the memories of my first kiss or the time I won a fight in elementary school, my family insists that such things never happened because we always left before sunset. Ever since then, I had a phobia to see a window wide open in the middle of the night. I always kept my curtain closed after sunset, but every once in a while I heard it, reminding me of it still waiting for me to open the door. Tick, tick, tick. This actually has a happy ending, but I'm at work. I'll edit it or add the comment ASAP. And believe it or not, it's real. I don't care if you think this is a creepypasta or just me trying to get attention or if I'm mental. I know what I've lived, and there's nothing you can say to change my mind. So I've always been sensitive to the paranormal. My mom has told me strange stories about when I was a kid and the things I would claim to have seen. Apparently, these were things a 6-year-old wouldn't really know about. Anyways, fast forward about 14 years and I'm living with my grandparents. They purchased a home in a subdivision and picked a plot of land to have it built on, so they were the first and only people living in this home. So, I have no explanation as to what I've experienced, but I would see shadows and little glowing balls of light here and there, nothing too creepy, except the hallway. They have an L-shaped hallway, and my bedroom was at the end of the hallway. So if you take an L and turn it 90 degrees clockwise, my bedroom would be where the top of the L would be, and the kitchen and dining room, sitting room, would be at the opposite end. So, to get to my bedroom, I would have to turn a corner and go to the end of the hallway. Right after turning the corner, we would feel a sense of dread, like something was right behind you, about to snatch you up. But once you crossed the threshold to your bedroom, the feeling went away. This happened every time, day or night. Then, there was one night, myself and my grandmother and my husband were watching TV. Just some comedy movie, I don't remember. Anyways, the den or computer room doors were in the living room. They were double doors and opened up wide. While we were watching the movie, we heard children laughing. The only child in the home was my 1-year-old, and she was sleeping on the couch next to my husband. So I got up and opened the den doors, expecting to see my grandpa on the other side watching some videos. The lights were off, and there was nobody there. We shrugged it off, finished our movie, and went to bed. The next morning, we were all in the kitchen talking about the previous night, and my brother and his girlfriend walked in. They asked what we were talking about, so I told them about the children laughing. They both turned pale and looked at each other. Turns out they had a Ouija board, oh boy, and were playing with it that previous afternoon. They started to hear children laughing outside their bedroom and quickly said goodbye, and then put the board in the den. I told them to burn it, and we never heard the laughing again.